Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Welcome back, everybody. This is live from the Heartland for the week of April 20th. It's our 200th Zoom version of Live from the Heartland, and we're glad you're listening in. Our next guest is someone who is becoming familiar to the show, and some of you may remember when he was on recently talking about the Workers' Rights Board. It's the one and only Tommy Carden, and we've got him here again today. I think we got to turn you into our main labor reporter, Tommy. Good to see you.
I'll take it. Good to see you, Michael. Thanks for having me again.
You're a busy guy. You're out there organizing. And initially, this started off when our friend Peter Kuttner he talked to us about a film series, a labor film series that you're very much involved with. So let's start with that, because you have another version of the Jobs with Justice Workers' Rights Board labor film series. This month, it's a film called The Hand That Feeds. And why don't you give a little information about the series in general and the particular film and what people might expect and when they can see it?
Absolutely. Also, the 200th episode, I feel like that I'm pretty lucky. That's a nice round number, 200.
Yes.
Congrats on 200.
Let's hope we're here for 1,000.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the Jobs with Justice Workers' Rights Board labor film series is ongoing, and that's last time I was on your show. I talked about the UAW film, but the film we're going to be showing in just over a week. So next Thursday, April 25th, is a film called The Hand That Feeds, and it's about a group of immigrant workers, of undocumented immigrant workers, working at a bakery in New York on the Upper East Side. And these workers are facing low pay. They're facing, to some extent, unsafe working conditions, dangerous machinery. And they've had enough. And they know there's a risk in coming together and standing up for their rights because they're undocumented. But it's a story of how they're, organizing to form a union. And this is right around the time that the Occupy Wall Street, protests are happening as well. So there's some overlap between what's happening with Occupy Wall Street and the struggle that these workers have going on in their bakery on the shop floor. So it's a really good film. There's a lot of really relevant questions in there today. Immigrant workers are really the backbone of our economy, and we're hoping this film brings a good discussion with workers who are there, organizers, to sort of talk about the current state of immigrant worker organizing and what people can do to support immigrant workers like the ones in the film coming together. So this will be Thursday, April 25th, 6 to 8 p.m. And we're going to be doing it at the Chicago Jobs with Justice Hall, which is at 333 South Ashland. So everyone should come out and join us.
Tell us, people, what the earlier films were and what are some films that are coming up, so they can get an overall picture. And then we'll focus a little bit more on this one and on immigrant workers.
Yeah, for sure. So the first film we did in this year's kind of installation for this series was we did 2 films in January focused on healthcare workers organizing. So we screened HSA Strike 75, about the Cook County Hospital strike. We also showed I Am Somebody, about the sanitation workers strike that Coretta Scott King was famously involved with. Then we did the UAW, the United Auto Workers film around the League of Revolutionary Black Voters, who were coming together to fight against, right? In Detroit. Yeah.
Revolutionary Black Workers. Yeah. They were pretty forceful for a time there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then we just screened last month, we screened Haskell Wexler's film, documentary film, Who Needs Sleep? And we had workers from IATSE talk about sort of their upcoming contract fight, and sort of how a lot of the issues that Wexler was documenting in 2006 when it comes to sleep deprivation in the film industry is still very much an issue that people are facing today. So that was a good discussion. And for all those films, we had workers from the industry that the film was focusing on. We had them come and speak and talk about the film, talk about what's changed, what hasn't since the film was made, and talk about some of their current fights. And for this film, we're going to have hopefully some workers and maybe some staff from worker centers through the Raise the Floor Alliance. So Warehouse Workers for Justice, my organization, we're a part of Raise the Floor. And all of the worker centers that are part of this, alliance, we're all organizing low-wage workers in, a lot of non-unionized industries. So for my organization, it's warehouse workers. There's others within Raise the Floor that focus on, manufacturing workers, domestic workers, a whole host of industries that have a lot of immigrant workers working in them.
Tell us a little bit more about your organization and the situation of warehouse workers in general. I remember from when we did that interview, I was overwhelmed almost by how large Amazon was in terms of how many people they employed and how many people are working there and don't have a union. What's the latest in that situation?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm sitting right now in my office in Joliet, where we do a lot of our work. It's where when we got started, we did pretty much all of our work out here in Joliet, one of the biggest logistics hubs in the country. With all the class 1 railroads and interstates sort of converging out here in Will County, a lot of major logistics companies, they need to have warehouses out here, right? To have access to the Chicago market, right? And sort of markets all across the Midwest. It really connects the country, the east and west parts of the country. Everything comes through Chicago. But yeah, last time we talked about Amazon, and Amazon, there's one unionized facility, right, in New York, but they still don't have a contract. Amazon has thrown everything they can at that union to prevent them from getting a contract. And, now we see companies like Trader Joe's, right, trying to call into question the constitutionality of the National Labor Relations Board. And, Amazon's right there too. They'd love to get all these elections thrown out or stop the organizing before it even gets started. But yeah, not much has changed, unfortunately, since we last talked when it comes to Amazon, as far as I can tell.
All right, let's get a little more information about the actual situation for immigrant workers. They're featured in the film, The Hand That Feeds, but we know that it's been an issue. We have a lot of immigrants coming. We have the border, which is a real hot spot for political debate and issues. And we've heard very often, people say all the time, let people work, let them go to work. What is the actual situation for immigrant workers here in Chicago and in general throughout the country?
Absolutely. Yeah. So a lot of the people we're working with, we work with some newer arrivals. People have come to the country relatively recently, but a lot of the people that we work with have been in this country for some time now, right? For years. Some of them have been here for decades, and they still can't work legally, right? They are not able to get work permits, right? They're not able to get citizenship. They're not able to get any sort of legal status in this country. So they're living in the shadows, really. And for a lot of the workers that Warehouse Workers for Justice works with, they go to the only place they know they can get a job reliably, right? Through the temporary staffing agencies. And it's sort of a misnomer, right? These workers are called temps, but a lot of them have been there for years, working for the same agency. And they're making, very little money. They're making maybe $15 an hour, $16 an hour. So immigrant workers, really rely on temp agencies for work. And those are also the employers that really take advantage of people. They know, right, this is the only spot somebody's going to be able to get a job, or one of the only spots someone's going to be able to get a job. So the discrimination is rampant. The lack of training, right, on health and safety is a big issue. Um, and it's We work with a lot of workers who are trying to come together and trying to fix things in their workplace. So yeah, it's a real big issue. We try to give people the tools they need to know their rights, their rights, even if they're undocumented, right? Your rights you have as a worker working in this country, and try to give people the tools they need to fight back and demand more from the companies that certainly could be paying them more and treating them a lot better.
Tommy, can you give me a sense of how many, what is the ethnic background or the country of origin for a lot of workers? I'm sure it's, across the globe, but in the past, it was probably not a lot of Mexican workers.
Yeah,
I don't know what the situation is now. Can you shed any light on that?
it's still a lot of Mexican workers. I would say, yeah, a good number of the immigrant workers that come to my organization um, are Mexican, but Guatemalans as well, some Colombians, and then occasionally some newer arrivals like from Venezuela, for sure. Um, but but yeah, still for warehousing out here, a lot of Mexican workers. Yeah.
And I understand there's a new initiative from Homeland Security that affects work permits. Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be something that I really hope will be part of the discussion at this film on the 25th. But there's this new tool that worker centers like Warehouse Workers for Justice have been using now for over a year, maybe close to a year and a half. And it's called deferred action. So this is a newer initiative under the Biden administration, from the Department of Homeland Security. And it's basically the DHS cooperating with the main sort of labor agencies. So at the federal level, that's Department of Labor, the National Labor Relations Board, OSHA, Wage and Hour Division. And then at the state level, that's the Illinois Department of Labor, the Illinois Department of Human Rights. Essentially, what this program does is any worker, any undocumented worker who's actively cooperating in an investigation against their boss, if that agency deems it necessary, if they say they give the green light for it, workers can get work authorization. So workers can get a work authorization for 2 years. They get a social security number, they get a driver's license, they get to have status in this country, even if it's only for 2 years. So this has been a really important initiative from the federal government, one that has been really useful in resulting in more productive investigations into bad bosses. And it's also been one that has allowed workers to have the confidence they need to speak up and to come together when there's issues in the workplace. It helps remove the tool from employers to say, you know what, we're going to call ICE, or we're going to hold your back. We're going to hold it against you. We know you're undocumented. This gives workers the security that they need to actually be able to speak out and organize. So it's been a really helpful tool, and one that we really want to see continue, in the future. So.
Are there any differences state by state the way immigrant workers are treated? I mean, a company could threaten their workers because you're not a citizen. We're going to call ICE. You mentioned that, but I'm wondering if a state like Illinois, which is progressive at least in part, is different than Kansas or some other place, or is it
Yeah,
pretty much a similar situation?
the progressive depends on the issue, right?
Than the part
um,
of the state you're.
yeah, that too. It's some states are better than others. Some states have more protection. So, the Illinois Human Rights Act, right? There's more protected classes, and there's more protection, frankly, for undocumented workers who face discrimination due to their national origin and a whole host of other identities. there's been some movement in the state legislature here, with some bills that would actually try to make it illegal to retaliate against somebody based on their immigration status. So we're really hoping some of those bills move forward, and that would be a big step. That would be a really, really big step for immigrant workers' rights in Illinois. But certainly, yeah, some states are better than others. Illinois is generally a little more favorable. But when it comes to the workplace, I mean, bosses still have way too much power to do whatever they want to workers and hold immigration status over people, unfortunately.
When you were talking earlier about temporary halls or hiring halls,
Yeah.
it brought back memories of my early days in Uptown in Joint Community Union, which was, I was there 66 to 69. And one of the main
Mhm.
issues for mostly Southern migrants coming from Appalachia and stuff were these day labor hiring halls. It's probably the
Mm.
same thing as these temporary halls, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It
And they
sounds
would
like
take you
it.
to the job, they drive you to the job or tell you how to get there. They take transportation money, they take a cut of your pay. It was brutal.
Mhm.
And I don't
Yeah.
think was there ever any lessening of that, or is it just continued and even magnified today with the size of the Amazons of the world?
I think it just takes different forms, right? I think that what you're describing, I mean, still exists, especially for day laborers. So people who are working maybe, for 1 day assignments, doing construction. I mean, you go on corners, right? In some parts of the city, especially on the Southwest side, and you see people just waiting to get picked up, right?
Right.
And going to work. And for those workers, there's very little protections. And there's worker centers like an organization called Latino Union in Albany Park that really focuses on day laborers. But with temps, I mean, the thing that's so messed up is that a lot of these people actually might work for the same temporary staffing agency. And some of them, the company has it so that after 90 days, you're supposed to get hired directly by the company. So at the 89th day, the agency says there's no work for you, right? And they come back and the clock starts over and it's day one again, right? So it's a real messed up system.
There's a lot of anti-immigrant talk, particularly on the Republican side of things in the country.
Yeah.
And yeah, you probably have some perspective about jobs that are out there and the need for workers. I mean, it seems like the job market is, it's good for workers. More and more people are needed. I've
Mhm.
seen some smaller towns further west, like Kansas, maybe other places where they welcome immigrants because they need people. They're trying to keep these starving towns together. Uh,
Mhm.
Repopulate them with immigrants. Any sense of or anything you want to share on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of jobs available here, right? Out in warehousing in Will County, in suburban Cook County. And there's a lot of people who want to work right now, right? And we need to do what we can as a society to integrate people, right, into society and get people work authorization, right? It seems like common sense, and from that good reporting and good writing that Juan Gonzalez has done, right, about how um, it, this is a public policy decision, and it's very easy for us as a society to make it possible to get Ukrainians right set up in our society here in Chicago to work and to live as we should. But we should also be doing this for immigrants who are coming to this country, often because of foreign policy decisions that our country has made, right? So it's really possible. There's a lot of jobs out there. There's a lot of people here who want to be working, so let's get them work permits and let's get people set up for some stability in the city and in this country.
I'm for that. And let's one more time give us the information about the April 25th showing, the address, the name of the film, and what time people should show up.
Absolutely. So this labor film series, the next film is going to be The Hand That Feeds, Thursday, April 25th. We're going to be starting at 6 p.m. And we'll be at the Chicago Jobs with Justice Hall in Chicago at 333 South Ashland.
Okay, Tommy Carden, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I imagine we'll be talking again next month.
Absolutely. Likewise. Always
Okay,
good talking with you too.
keep up the great work.